Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Major General Anthony Rawlins. We warmly welcome the family of 2nd Corporal Joseph Ernest Purdey, whose story will be told shortly. This evening, we're honoured to acknowledge General Gwyn Jenkins, Vice Chief of the Defence Staff, United Kingdom, accompanied by Vice Admiral David Johnston, Vice Chief of the Defence Force, Australia, and their accompanying delegation. We also warmly welcome the members of the Royal Australian Regiment Association who have joined us this evening. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family, visitors to the memorial, and students from Victoria, Caulfield Grammar School, Malvern Campus, Glen Iris, and Darren Prep to 12 College. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Second Corporal Joseph Ernest Purdey. Joseph Purdey was born on the 20th of September 1889 in Melbourne, Victoria. Affectionately known as Joe, he was one of 8 children born to James Purdey, a gardener and farmer, and his wife Jessie. He received his education at Warburton Public School before moving to Tongala in central Victoria with his family when he was 22 years old. There, he began working as a farmer alongside his father and his brother George on the family property named Rosalind Grange. He was a keen sportsman and enjoyed playing tennis with his family on the tennis court on their property. When the First World War broke out in 1914, Joe was employed as a salesman for the daring equipment firm J.T. Bartram and Company. Joseph enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 14th of February 1916, alongside his older brother George. The brothers were allocated to the 10th Australian Field Company Engineers. During his training period in Australia, Joseph was promoted to Second Corporal. He embarked from Melbourne with George on the troop ship Runic on the 20th of June 1916. Joseph and George arrived in England on the 10th of August 1916, where they would continue their training. In early September, Joseph contracted scarlet fever and was sent to hospital at Colchester to recover. He rejoined his unit at the end of September and was granted 2 weeks of leave ahead of embarking for France. In November 1916, their unit arrived on the Western Front. Initially based around Strzeil and Armentières, they were busy repairing and improving drainage in the trenches. In 1917, their operations were extended to Belgium. They were stationed between Plegs-Châtelet and Armentières and were responsible for a variety of repairs and maintenance tasks, as well as the demolition of bridges. By the end of June, operations focused on the Belgian lines around Messines and Ypres, where they were engaged in further repair work and the construction of dugouts during major battles on the Ypres salient. On the 4th of October 1917, a major attack was launched at Broodsinder Bridge. Advancing troops were tasked with capturing the heavily defended high ground, which had been fortified by German forces. Before the attack began, the enemy began shelling, killing and wounding those waiting for the orders to attack. When the Allied barrage opened and the troops began their advance, they were met by German troops who had preempted the attack and advanced under their own barrage. A bitter and costly battle ensued as the Allied units fought to secure the high ground. By the end of the attack, Australian units had taken their objectives, but at an enormous cost, suffering more than 6,000 casualties. Among the dead was Second Corporal Joseph Purdey. Joseph had been in charge of mule transports during the battle, and he was moving supplies and ammunition up to the front lines when his position was shelled during the enemy's initial barrage. A high explosive shell hit him directly, badly wounding him in the foot, ankle, leg, and throat. His brother George, who was with him at the time, immediately carried Joseph to the advanced dressing station for treatment. He was then transferred to the 55th General Hospital at Boulogne, where he died of wounds 9 days later, on the 13th of October 1917. He was buried nearby at Wimereux Communal Cemetery, where his brother George erected a cross above his grave. In June 1918, Joseph was posthumously awarded the Military Medal for conspicuous bravery and devotion to duty shown on the day of his death. The medal was sent to his parents in Victoria with a note from Base Records conveying the sympathies of the King and the Minister for Defence. It read, I ask you to please accept his deep personal sympathy in the loss which not only you, but the Australian Army has sustained in the loss of 2nd Corporal Purdey, whose magnificent conduct on the field of battle has helped to earn for our soldiers a fame which will endure for as long as memory lasts. Joseph Purdey was 28 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among the 62,000 Australians who died whilst serving in the First World War. In the photograph displayed beside the pool of reflection, Joseph Purdey is seen standing on the right-hand side. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember 2nd Corporal Joseph Ernest Purdey, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.